Knockhill Racing Circuit, the competitors in the holding area awaiting qualifying, and this an important part of their weekend because you get championship points for your qualifying positions. As the drivers make their way out onto the circuit, we can see there's been a wet track and there's a drying line, not dry line, as we can see grip was a premium here. That was, Stephen Somerville showing us just how slippery it was to go round McIntyre's, and the rain was falling at Clark Corner. So that dry-ish line, it would get bigger as the qualifying session went on, but it definitely made these guys work for their money. The fastest guest this weekend, Stephen Somerville in his BMW Compact. Yes, you can come here as a guest in a car, and Somerville, well, track limits may be a bit of an issue for Stephen there, but great to have him. James Cochrane in his Caterham was on track as well and managing to cope with the limited grip that we did have out here. The Racing Awareness Scotland McGann off. Andrew Fahey as ever just out there warming up towards the mid part of the session, and fastest in Class G Martin Hutton with a 1:10.391 in his Peugeot 106 in the lovely Peugeot Rally colours. Now Martin, not just a competitor, also a scrutineer for Motorsport UK in the Scottish scene, so he knows exactly what it's like to be on both sides of that fence. Look at that widening line though, definitely drying here at Knockhill, and Phil Taylor started to use that to his advantage in F class. Phil Taylor 11th fastest with a 103.7, but in F class it was Mark Thompson 102.9 who was fastest, and he's also having a fabulous run this year in the King of the Hill overall standings. However, yes, a little bit wide through the chicane. The new sausage curb there, not letting the drivers cut as much of that second apex, and it really does make the chicane tricky, especially if there is a lack of grip when you land. Michael Osborne Jr. was here. He was fastest in Pro class with a 53.1, the man who is doing the national scene in time attack. Great to have Michael Osborne Jr. here. Aussie, as he's known in the scene. And Steve Arkley in the Westfield Megabusa, as ever, would post a fast time towards the end of this qualifying session. Rab Jobson, fastest in E with a 58.5 second lap for Rab, 58.535. The man who dominated last year's King of the Hill. He's up against some stiff competition this year, and it's good to see Rab rising to that challenge, which is coming in quite a few different ways. That's Adam Morrison bouncing over the crest of Duffus Dip in full singing mode, and Adam Morrison with his lovely little Mini Cooper S, well, fourth fastest after qualifying. Bond-thrown, BMW, sideways, hairpin in front of the Bond-thrown security shelter. That's exactly how he likes to do it. Fastest in Class D with a 55.7, and you could almost say Bond-thrown Ian is now global, because he likes to set the odd time around the Nürburgring as well as Knockhill. But as we see him fighting for grip in the BMW, up the back straight, the BMW M4, watch this one turning, little bit sideways, out of shot, but he did keep it together. He was up against Stephen Henderson as well in the BMW M2 competition. Stephen used to compete in a Silver Riot many, many years ago, a car that gave him quite a few headaches in the gearbox department. Class C fastest, Brian Verbarg with a 108.317. Brian testing for grip in qualifying, just making sure he scores those all-important championship points. That's something you don't want to throw away in qualifying. The man who won a championship last year and took the trophy stateside. Steve Arkley was quickest in Class B, as we would expect. Steve in the Westfield Megabusa with a 59.824 second lap. Steve, well, he is a stalwart, he's a veteran of SuperLap Scotland, and we absolutely love having him come down from the north of Scotland. And this is the equivalent of a pit board for Phil Taylor. And I think that worked. P4, Phil, or 4 laps left, or 4 minutes left. And this is the car of Michael Osborne, a beautiful, beautiful car. The Mitsubishi that he and his dad have put together at Osborne Motors, very local to Knockhill Racing Circuit. And Aussie also picked up the TurboSmart Hard Charger Award last year at our annual awards. He's now a global ambassador for that concern, and great to see him here at the weekend. This car seems to get faster, as does Michael Osborne Jr. every time he hits the track. A 53.1 second lap around tricky conditions at Knockhill. You can have all that power, you can have all that grip, but when the weather changes it does become pretty tricky. But it was great to have Aussie back. You can see that car on full song up the straight. And there's our qualifying results. Osborne, Bond-thrown, Henderson, and you can also see the class at the side, the fastest class that we had, very much the pro class this weekend. As we move forward in towards the finals, They run in reverse order from what they did when they were on track. So the fastest person will go last on track. And this is important as we see the guest car of Stephen Henderson making his way around the circuit. And this is important as we see the guest car of Stephen Somerville making his way around the tricky circuit here. It's not dried throughout the course of the day. It's been wet and dry. It's been very, very tricky for all the competitors to get it together. But Henderson, when he was out there, a 106.273, which was ultimately a good lap. But you can see how difficult it was to get through the hairpin. Dry all the way on braking as you then load the car up through the apex of the corner. It turns wet and the grip disappears from underneath you. Martin Hutton, a 111.445, slightly slower than his qualifying time, purely down to what we think was track conditions. It was a much narrower dry line as Hutton came through the chicane and up the back straight. The little Peugeot 106 though, well, it makes the dry line look quite wide. Other cars, not so. Once again on the brakes for the hairpin, watch as Hutton turns in straight onto the wet part of the track. Luckily though, through the braking phases, dry all the way towards it. But Martin, 15th fastest in G-Class, a 111.445. Andrew Fahey making his way around the circuit now. In Class F, Andrew Fahey, a 109.538 for the Racing Awareness Scotland campaign. The class and car which Alex Milne has put so much time and effort into. Second in Class F was Carl Walker in his Renault Clio, a 107.130 for Carl, with huge oversteer as he disappeared through Clark, and ultimately that killing a bit of lap time for the poor Carl Walker car. Mark Thompson, fastest once again in F, a 104 for Mark Thompson, and he managed a 104.815 as we go on board with Mark down through Butchers. We're already looking towards the chicane. It's completely blind. Watch for the second curb as you come through, bouncing over the top of it and stay on that dry line. Nice and controlled from Mark Thompson, and great that we've got these onboard footage. Let's see as he turns in here. No oversteer on the way in through the corner. Doesn't run wide and abuse track limits as well. Nice and tidy round towards the hairpin. We see Mark Thompson go, and he'll be happy with that one. Fourth in E-Class was Alex Milne. Alex Milne managing a 106.610 in his trusty Megane as well. A car which looked after by Rab Jobson and the guys at Racing Awareness. And Alex sometimes brings up to 5 cars which will compete here for the Racing Awareness Scotland team. Andrew Cowie was third in Class E in his trusty Subaru. Now I can say that about Andrew's Subaru now because it is a little bit more trustier than it used to be. A 104.563 for him. Second, well, Sean Robertson in his Mini, a 101.3. Sean with a little bit of Synergy Cycles on the back of that. We've noticed that's the Donny McLeod local cycling shop. And not long till we see that man back on track as well. Fastest in E-Class, and you can see the commitment from Rab Jobson as he bounced his way over Duffus, 58.588. And this was commitment all the way towards the end of the lap as he climbed up towards Clark Corner. Look how wide the dry line is getting now later in the runs of the final. Remember how narrow it was for Martin Hutton. Adam Morrison, well, watch this. D-Class Adam Morrison, bang, into the tyre wall, rectisail barriers at the bottom of Duffus, so Leslie's into McIntyre's. That is a very strange Adam Morrison accident, but that brought out a lengthy delay, and it also brought around a rearranged front end to his Mini Cooper S. Third in D-Class, James Cochrane, 107.825 in the lovely, I'm going to say Kermit the Frog green Caterham, if I can get away with that, James. But yes, after a long delay, James did get himself on track after Adam Morrison unfortunately ploughed into that rectisail. James just getting himself through here. Difficult in the Caterham, heating the tyres up, never easy. Henderson was second fastest in D-Class. Stephen Henderson doing a 58.091 second lap. 2 seconds slower than what he managed in qualifying. So you can see track conditions definitely hampering everybody through the course of their final run. Fastest in D-Class, Ian Bonthorne, 56.302. And Bonthorne, again, laying rubber on the dry parts of the track and trying to negotiate the tricky wet parts. Again, a little bit slower than his qualifying lap of a 55.7. But Bonthorne, look how dry it was through the hairpin by the time he got there. Still, with a dab of Oppo, as he would like to say it, makes his way up towards that checkered flag.
Car was going well today, no major issues, but just need to dial it in a wee bit more. The geometry is not quite where I want it to be, but it's a good day out. If you want to go that stage above track days and actually have some competition, it's the way to do it.
Fastest in C-Class, 109.060, Brian Verbarg. Now, Brian has been caught out in that exact area, the same as what happened to Adam Morrison. So Brian, a little bit cautious through there and being rather sensible doing that as he made his way from the chicane up towards Clark. Happy to take away a maximum points score for qualifying and the final for SuperLap Scotland. But it was also great to hear from Bonthorne speaking to our reporter Chris Hosey earlier on as Steve Arkley took the honours in Class B. Arkley doing a 102.209 lap around Knockhill's tricky, damp, dry track. The thing with these light Westwoods and Caterhams, never easy to build up the tyre temperature in the one lap that they have to do that. They're out laps, so they really do sometimes pay a price when it comes to the final runoff. And fastest of the day and in Pro Class, well, it was this man here. I'll change that. And fastest in Pro Class was Michael Osborne Jr. with a 56.914 second lap, 3 seconds away from his qualifying time, and you can see just why he was a lot slower. Pouring with rain by the time we got to the latter part of the final, and a shame for Michael Osborne Jr. All that hard work in qualifying, he still takes maximum points in Pro, but fastest overall on the day went to Ian Bonthorne in his 77 BMW M4. So the results, as you can see on screen. The next time we see SuperLap Scotland on track here at Knockhill, don't be shy, make sure you come and join us. We'll be on the 6th and 7th of September. The next instalment of racing track action at Knockhill.